Today, we are diving into a genuine scientific detective story. Seriously, it's a mystery that starts with a really simple question about life, but it ends up taking us deep inside our own DNA to uncover a kind of genetic outlaw that's been hiding out for generations.
You know, we all learn in school that the odds of having a boy or a girl are pretty much 50-50, right? A simple flip of a genetic coin. But what if that's not always true? What if, for some families, that coin is actually weighted?
Well, researchers recently stumbled upon a real family where over many generations, that coin just kept landing on boy. I mean, they were having sons at this incredible rate of 2 boys for every 1 girl. This wasn't just some weird statistical fluke, this was a clue.
Okay, so let's get into this, because this isn't just a thought experiment. A team of geneticists found a real multi-generational family whose family tree was so skewed towards sons, it looked like it was actually breaking the fundamental rules of biology.
The scientists themselves were, frankly, stunned. In their paper, they pointed out that this strange pattern pointed to something both fascinating and super rare, a distorting Y-chromosome. Basically, a piece of DNA that was cheating the system to make sure it got passed on.
So to really get our heads around how this genetic outlaw works, we need a super quick refresher on the rules of the game it's playing. Let's, set the stage for our little genetic investigation here. Okay, so the bedrock principle here is Mendelian inheritance. You probably remember this from high school biology. It basically just says that for any gene, you've got a 50% chance of getting it from a parent. It's supposed to be a totally fair 50-50 shot. But what if a gene decides it doesn't want to play fair? That's where we get this concept of a selfish gene, or what scientists call a segregation distorter. Think of it like a card sharp at a poker table. It's rigging the deal to make sure it gets passed on way more than its 50% share, and sometimes it does that by straight up sabotaging its competition.
Now, here's what's really interesting. Scientists have known about these selfish genes in other animals, like mice and fruit flies, for a long time. But actually finding one in humans? That has been an incredibly difficult cold case for decades.
And here's why it's been so tough. Human families are pretty small, which makes it hard to spot these kinds of statistical patterns. We live a long time, so tracking genes can take centuries. And on top of that, tiny little errors in reading DNA can throw everything off. And, well, obviously there are huge ethical limits to genetic experiments on people. All these hurdles made the hunt feel almost impossible.
So the researchers made a really clever choice. They decided to hunt for this distorter on the Y-chromosome. Why? Well, this slide shows it perfectly. The Y-chromosome passes directly from father to son in this clean, unbroken line. The X-chromosome, on the other hand, it bounces all over the place between sexes, making it a total tangled mess to follow. For a genetic detective, the Y-chromosome leaves a nice, clear trail of breadcrumbs.
This case stayed cold for years, until now. And it wasn't cracked with a magnifying glass. It was cracked with 2 incredibly powerful new tools, a colossal database and a brilliant piece of software designed specifically to hunt for these genetic weirdos.
Okay, tool number 1 was the Utah Population Database, and this thing is incredible. We're talking about linked family trees and records for more than 76,000 people, with some family lines stretching back more than 10 generations to the 1700s. That gave the researchers the raw statistical power they needed to see patterns that would be totally invisible otherwise. The second tool was a custom-built algorithm called WARP, and you can think of it like a digital detective. It starts by assuming everyone is innocent, gives them all a low suspicion score. Then it goes to work, moving through the family tree, up and down the generations. If a dad has way too many sons, his suspicion score goes up. Then his sons' scores go up, then their sons. The algorithm just keeps repeating this process over and over until the scores finally settle down, and the one family line carrying the real genetic culprit just lights right up. So the researchers unleashed WARP on this massive database, and after crunching its way through centuries of births and family connections, it flagged a single family line that was a massive statistical outlier. This is kind of what that search looks like. It's this huge web of human connections. And deep inside that web, WARP pinpointed a few specific family networks, which you can see highlighted here in red, where something really unusual was happening with the sex ratio. But one of them stood out far above the rest. So now let's zoom in on the family tree of the prime suspect. You can literally trace the path of a single Y chromosome passed down from the guy at the very top. The blue squares are all males, and as you can see, over 7 generations, this specific Y chromosome was just incredibly, consistently successful at making sure it ended up in a son. So what was the final score? When they tallied it all up across 89 children in this direct male line, what did they get? A whopping 67.4% of them were boys. I mean, that is a massive, massive deviation from the 50-50 coin flip we'd expect.
But hey, was it just luck? I mean, a crazy statistical fluke? To check, the researchers ran another test on all 26,865 male family lines in the entire database. And this slide, right here, this is the smoking gun. Each little dot is a family line, and the red dot, that's our family. You can just see it's a wild outlier. The odds of this happening by pure chance were astronomically small. This was real.
So they found it, a selfish Y-chromosome, alive and well, kicking around in the human population. But you know, if solving this one case just blows open a whole new set of fascinating questions about what else might be hiding in our genome. What makes this so wild to geneticists is that the human Y chromosome is, well, it's famously kind of a runt. It's small and degenerate, which means it's lost most of its genes over evolutionary time. So the fact that this little chromosome still has enough firepower to host a selfish gene that can rig the entire game of inheritance, that is a stunning revelation.
And why does any of this matter to us? Well, for a few really big reasons. First, these selfish genes are often linked to fertility problems, so this could be a new piece in the puzzle of male infertility. It might also help explain some evolutionary mysteries, like why there are these deserts in our genome completely empty of Neanderthal DNA. Maybe a human selfish gene just kicked it out. And maybe most profoundly, it suggests there is this constant, invisible battle, a genetic arms race, happening right now inside our own cells for control of the next generation.
You know, the discovery of this one family's secret rewrites a small but really fundamental part of what we thought we knew about human genetics. And it just leaves us with this incredible question. With all these new tools like AI and massive databases, what other ancient genetic stories, what other hidden dramas of evolution are just sitting there, waiting to be read in the book of our own DNA?